Hi, this is Damien Foley, and this is my MBA journey at the Melbourne Business School. And today we're doing an interview with David Potter. How are you, David?
Good, mate. Yourself this morning?
Not too bad, thank you. We have had numerous technical difficulties trying to achieve this.
A little bit.
Just a few, but hey, this is what working from home life is now. So this is what we're all having to deal with. So
Exactly.
yes. Look, okay, David. Look, tell us about yourself. Let's start from where you grew up to how you got to be at the Melbourne Business School.
Yeah, absolutely. So I grew up in Heidelberg, Heidelberg and sort of Ivanhoe kind of area. I've been a Melbourne boy since I was born, kind of thing. My family's always lived in Melbourne. Basically always lived around kind of the same area. Obviously went to school around there, so I went to school in Ivanhoe East, and then went to high school at Ivanhoe Grammar, just around the corner from home. When I was growing up, I loved getting outdoors. So loved getting outdoors and making sure I was, exercising and doing all that type of stuff. I love skiing. So in winter, you'll probably find me still up in the Alps and up at Mount Hotham usually, taking a couple of runs up there. And then at other times of the year, my family always used to go away. So we used to love getting out into sort of the outback and outback Australia. So we've done numerous trips kind of around Australia and into the desert, and spent sort of 3 or 4 weeks kind of not really talking to civilization as such, and just going exploring, out there. When I was growing up, I sort of had 2 older sisters as well. So one being 10 years older and one being 11 years older than me. So a little bit of a sort of a 4-parent model to my childhood, given that they were significantly older than me and trying to teach me how to live and do a few other things. But ultimately, yeah, pretty normal kind of childhood, I guess. And then ultimately, once I finished high school, I ended up going and doing a bachelor's degree at Melbourne in science, so majoring in human structure and function. And then from there went to Monash for a couple of years, and then ultimately got a role at Lifesaving Victoria, which is where I still currently work, actually, following kind of a lifelong passion for lifesaving. So yeah.
There we go. So Lifesaving, that's where you currently work, and you said you've been involved with it. How long Surf Lifesaving?
Yeah, so I've been in lifesaving since I was 5 years old. So I joined my local club, which is Cape Patterson, when I was that age, as a little nipper, and from there, just kind of it grew. My love for lifesaving kind of grew from there, and basically I worked my way up through the next couple of years through nippers, and ended up then doing my surf rescue certificate and doing my bronze medallion, which is kind of the major sort of patrolling awards that you've got to hold. And then from there, joined the committee, actually, and I actually sat on the committee for 12 years, ranging from a couple of different roles. So went from in the operational side of things. So I ended up being club captain for a couple of years, which is basically the operational kind of head. So I think of anything red and yellow on the beach. That was sort of my role in terms of managing all of that. And then also flicked over into the training side. So I ultimately became chief instructor, along with a couple of my good friends. And we were sort of co-chief instructors as we sort of went along the years, and ended up, training a whole bunch of people how to be surf lifesavers and stuff, which is a really, really rewarding experience. So yeah, it's been a lifelong passion for me. Still is a lifelong passion. As I said, I work for them now. So it's an absolute sort of key part of my life is surf lifesaving and that whole sort of community engagement kind of model that they do. So yeah.
Now, previous recordings when we tried to do this, you also said you were involved with on a committee as well with Surf Lifesaving.
Yeah. So all those roles, so being club captain, being chief instructor, were basically that I was on the committee for that particular point in time, or for that whole kind of period of time. which is basically the running of a club kind of thing. So think of kind of your board level, not to the same extent as what a company would be or anything like that, but think of kind of that kind of level of, you're the head of that kind of organization, and being that sort of decision-making body, I guess, for that organization. So ultimately being involved in that kind of thing allowed me to grow in terms of some of my experiences and some of how I interact with people and manage different projects and things like that. It really allowed me to grow in that space, and then it kind of pushed me into doing something like an MBA, as well as my personal kind of life, or sorry, professional kind of life. This was kind of the personal side of things of allowing me to look into my skill sets and things like that, and make sure that I'm using what I can and growing what I can. So yeah.
Okay, it's interesting because I've done a couple of interviews with other cohorts, student cohorts at Melbourne Business School, and one that keeps popping up is their involvement in not-for-profit organisations, being involved either as a volunteer or sitting on committees or being involved in some way, shape or form. So it's interesting that, again, another student cohort member is being involved with a not-for-profit or voluntary position. So no, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so why the MBA? What was the basic thought process for you to decide to do an MBA?
Yeah, so I actually had been thinking about it for probably about 12 months prior to my kind of final decision. In terms of the reason why I sort of wanted to do an MBA is that initially I had a couple of friends do it, and I had a couple of mates both do a Melbourne one and an outside one, and just the amount of growth that they had during the period of time that they were doing an MBA. So the amount of skills that they learned, the amount of sort of knowledge they picked up from doing their programs was absolutely immense. And I really wanted to try and do the same thing. I really wanted to try and kind of grow in a sense of my professional life and make sure that I was leading myself down a career path that would really allow me to succeed sort of in the future. And then what actually kind of tipped me over the edge was one of my managers actually at work indicated that I should think about doing something like this. He had recently done it as well, so he had done it probably about 8 to 10 years, I think, prior to that kind of period where we had that conversation. And he was saying exactly the same thing of how much it allowed him to grow and all that type of stuff. So that was, I think, probably the final kind of push that I needed to do it, which was kind of really good to hear. But ultimately, I chose to do it because I really wanted to try and grow and make sure that I had a sustainable kind of career path moving forward, and making sure that the skill sets I needed in order to succeed in that were there and ready for me to utilize. And the way that I saw that was doing an MBA program. So yeah.
Okay, so you chose to do the MBA and you went with Melbourne Business School. So why Melbourne Business School for doing the MBA?
So Melbourne Business School to me showed a lot more of the ability to interact with others. I love sort of interacting with others. One of my roles at work my role at work is volunteer support. So I'm interacting every day day in and day out with our volunteer members and our volunteer leaderships and stuff. So I love that interaction with other people and making sure that I'm delivering a service to them as best I can. And MBS, I believe, would allow me to grow in that sense, in that it's a full face-to-face program. Obviously not at the moment. At the moment, it's obviously online and everything like that. But you know, we live in weird and wonderful times now. But the reason I chose MBS was basically because it was that face-to-face program. It allowed you to interact with a whole range of different people from a range of different sort of backgrounds and experience, and who are in completely different professional fields. So basically, just the whole reason why I chose MBS was because it was a face-to-face program. I really wanted that kind of experience with others, and kind of being able to draw on the experience of others as well. My whole professional life, as I said before, has been involved in lifesaving. So expanding the horizons and making sure I'm trying to understand different fields and things like that as well was one of the really key parts to me. So face-to-face was the most probably important factor of doing an MBA program.
Yeah, that's the exact same reason why I chose to do the part-time MBA, is to do that face-to-face and to meet our other student cohort, because I was told that the networking was one of the biggest things that you also take away from doing an MBA. So I think we can both agree that that's been the case.
Exactly, completely agree.
Exactly. So David, we've been in isolation. People have been on their phones, and I know myself that I've been buying things that ordinarily I wouldn't. What have you purchased anything since being in isolation that that's a little bit out of the ordinary that for you guys, or something special that you bought for being in a work from home situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I may have gone on a small little spending spree when this first started. I think I'm still waiting on about 3 or 4 deliveries to come, so I'm kind of still excited on that on a day-to-day basis. But basically, the best thing I probably bought was a coffee machine. To be honest, that's probably been the savior and probably the thing that we've got the most use out of. Yeah, it's ranged from everything from a new vacuum cleaner to new mugs to a KitchenAid mixer, things that I can use at home while I'm here, and just trying to get a little bit more use out of my kitchen, I guess.
The coffee machine is a staple part of the workplace, so
Exactly.
yes, very much a requirement to get you through the coffee. So
exactly, no, completely agree. I don't think I'd be able to live without it right now.
That's it. Okay, thank you for coming along, David, and being interviewed. Besides the technical issues that we've obviously had.
Yeah, no, we persevered. It was all good.
We got there. So thank you again, David. I'm just going to end off. This is Damien Foley, and this is my MBA journey at the Melbourne Business School. I've just finished doing an interview with David Potter, one of my student cohort, and you can follow this video and myself on YouTube at Damien Foley, on the website damienfoley.com/MBA. LinkedIn is Damien Foley 1. Facebook is Damien Foley Official, and Instagram is DG Foley. Now, David, if people want to get in contact with you, they can through LinkedIn. Is that good?
Through LinkedIn, yes. So I actually can't remember what my LinkedIn handle is now. I'm sorry. But
You're
if you
right.
just search up David Potter, that should be fine.
David Potter from Surf Lifesaving. I'll put it into the comments anyway on LinkedIn when I upload this. So anyone that wants to connect with you will be able to just connect on the hyperlink and go straight to it.
Sounds great. Thanks very much.
Fantastic. Thank you for the interview, David. It's been great fun.
All good. Thanks, Damien. See ya.
See ya. Bye.